The boot came down
Your bike,
hard on the old
wallet,
man's
vest.
shoulder.
Now.
4 of them
Get
stood in a
nothing from
half
me!
circle around him in the parking
Leave
lot
him
behind
alone.
the
What
bar.
are you going to do, kid?
The lead one spat on the worn leather cut. He raised his fist for another blow. Blood was already on the corner of the old man's mouth. He had not asked to be hit. He had not raised a hand. 17-year-old Marcus Cole stepped out of the shadows between 2 rusted pickup trucks. He told them to stop. They laughed. He came from nothing. He had no father. He had no club. He had no family left breathing in this world except an old biker he had never met before tonight. And right now, 4 grown men
You
were
all right,
about
sir?
to break that old
been
man's
better.
bones on the
I think
concrete
this
for the
belongs
crime
to
of
you.
being old and alone.
You didn't even ask
The
who I
lead one
was.
turned his head toward
It didn't
Marcus.
matter. Someone needed
He
help.
looked him up
Thank
and
you.
down. He asked if Marcus had permission to die tonight. Marcus told him he did not need permission. He told him he was not there to die. He told him he was there to make sure the old man walked home on his own legs. The first punch came at Marcus before he had finished his breath. The second one split the skin above his left eye. He did not fall. Within 9 seconds, all 4 of them would be on the ground. None of them would remember exactly how it happened. Only one of them would leave the
My name's
parking lot
Jack.
on his own feet.
I'm the president of
But
this
before
club.
that, you need
Loyalty
to know
and
who
courage mean
Marcus
everything
Cole
in our
was.
world. This isn't
You need to
payment.
know what he carried
It's
in his
an
chest.
investment.
You need to
One act
understand
of
how a
courage
boy who
changed
had
my
nothing
life.
left in the world could become the most dangerous man standing in that lot. He was 17 years old. He worked nights at a gas station on Route 9, the kind of place where the coffee tasted burnt and the floors always smelled of old oil. His shift started at 10 and ended at 6. He rode a bicycle 5 miles each way because the bus did not run past midnight. He wore the same 3 shirts in rotation. He ate one meal most days, usually a sandwich his neighbor Mrs. Pace wrapped in wax paper and left on his porch at sunset. He had lived alone since he was 14. His mother died first, slow, in a hospital bed she could not afford, in a room he sat beside for 6 weeks reading to her from a library book about horses. His father died 3 years later. His father was found on the side of a country road 20 miles east of town. The police report said accident. Marcus did not believe the police report. He had kept one thing of his father's. It was a leather wallet, cracked and stained, with a single folded picture inside. The picture showed a man with broad shoulders and kind eyes standing beside a black motorcycle. The man was smiling in the picture the way fathers smile when they do not yet know the world is about to take them. Every morning, Marcus set that wallet on the small table beside his cot. He spoke to it before he left for school. He spoke to it again before he slept. He never told anyone he did this. Mrs. Pace suspected, but she never asked. Most days, Marcus walked through life the way a quiet animal walks through a field full of wolves. He kept his head down. He spoke when spoken to. He smiled only when the smile cost him nothing. He had learned by living with no protector that survival was a long, quiet practice of making yourself small until the world forgot you were there. If this story is landing somewhere real, hit-like, it tells me you are feeling it with me tonight. And if you have not subscribed yet, do that now so next week's story finds you first. Every week we tell the stories of the people the world tried to forget. Stay with me. But there was another Marcus. The Marcus who lived behind the closed door of his rented room. The Marcus who trained when no one was watching. The Marcus his father had built piece by piece before he died. Every night after his shift, Marcus worked his body. Push-ups until his arms shook. Sit-ups until his stomach burned. He shadow-boxed in front of the bathroom mirror for 45 minutes. He had learned these things from a stack of 3 old videotapes his father left behind. He had also learned them from a man who visited him twice a year. That man was named Dutch. Dutch was tall and thin and walked like a man whose knees had been broken more than once. He drove an old truck with no plates. He came to see Marcus on the boy's birthday and once around Christmas. He never explained who he was. He never explained why he came. He simply watched Marcus work in the small space behind the trailer, asked a few quiet questions, then left a small envelope of money on the kitchen table. Marcus had stopped asking why years ago. He understood without being told that he was being raised by relatives he had never been introduced to. He understood the 3 shirts were a test. He understood the bicycle was a test. He understood the long nights were a test. Every hard thing in his life had been a test, set by someone who would not explain the score. 2 weeks before the night in the parking lot, Marcus had been working the counter at the gas station. A man in his 60s came in around 4 in the afternoon. The man wore a faded leather cut with patches Marcus could read from across the store. There was a road name stitched on the chest. There was a club insignia on the back. The man bought a coffee and a pack of crackers. He sat on the curb outside and ate slowly, like a man who had forgotten what it felt like to be hungry. Marcus watched him through the window. He did not know who the man was. He only knew the man looked tired in a way that reminded him of his father. The man came back 3 more times that week. On the 4th visit, Marcus finally walked outside and sat beside him on the curb. He did not say anything for a long while. The old man did not say anything either. Then Marcus offered him the rest of his dinner wrapped in wax paper. The old man accepted it without pride and without shame. The man's name was Harlan. Harlan did not talk much about his past on those first days. He said he had been a writer most of his life. He said his club had been his family. He said he had retired to a quiet stretch of road and a small trailer he could not afford to keep much longer. He said he had no one left who was still breathing. Marcus did not tell him about the videotapes. He did not tell him about Dutch. He did not tell him about the picture in the leather wallet. He only nodded. He understood lonely men. He had known a few. If this story pulled you close, hit like. It tells me you were right there on the curb with me tonight. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. Every week I sit down and tell the stories of the people the world forgot. They deserve an audience. You can be that audience. Stay with me. On Friday night, after Marcus closed the gas station, he rode his bicycle past the old bar on Vine Street. He saw Harlan sitting on the bench outside. He saw 4 men pulling up on motorcycles. He saw the first boot raise. He saw Harlan's face flatten with the impact. He should have ridden past. He knew it. A 17-year-old with no protector does not step between 4 men and their business. That is how you get yourself hurt. That is how you lose the little you have. Marcus locked his bike to the fence. He walked forward into the lot. He did not know yet why he was doing this. He only knew he had watched his father die on a roadside and no one had stepped in to save him. The lead one called himself Breezy. Breezy was 34. He had a gold tooth and a scar that ran from his ear to his chin. He ran with a club called the Iron Sons. The Iron Sons controlled most of the county south of the river. They answered to no one in that county. Harlan had crossed them the week before. Harlan had stopped a younger Iron Son from robbing a woman at a gas station pump. The younger Iron Son had a knife. Harlan had taken the knife away with one quick motion of his wrist. Harlan had broken the boy's wrist before walking away. The Iron Sons did not forgive. They never forgave. They remembered every wound they had been given, and they collected on each one. Breezy told Harlan to get on his knees. Harlan refused. Breezy told him to apologize for the broken wrist. Harlan spat at his feet. That was when the boot came down a second time. That was when Marcus stepped into the circle. He told them to stop. Breezy turned. He laughed. He told Marcus he had the wrong night to be a hero. He told Marcus to run home to his mother before Marcus got himself killed. Marcus told Breezy his mother was not here. He told him his father was not here either. He told him that meant Marcus was the man of the night now. Breezy swung first. The fist came at Marcus's jaw like a hammer. Marcus slipped 2 inches to the left. The fist passed by his ear. Marcus's right hand came up under Breezy's chin with the heel of his palm. Breezy's head snapped back.
Your bike,
Breezy's
wallet,
legs
vest,
forgot what
now.
they were for.
Get nothing from me!
The second one came at Marcus from his
What are you
left.
going to do,
Marcus
kid?
stepped into him. He dropped his weight low. He drove his elbow into the man's ribs. There was a sound like wet wood cracking under a heavy boot. The man folded in half and dropped. The third one pulled a knife from his belt. Marcus saw the metal glow long before it reached him. He caught the wrist with his left hand. He turned it. He broke the wrist clean. He had been taught this by his father in a kitchen when he was 9 years old. The knife fell. The man screamed. The fourth one looked at his 3 brothers on the ground. He looked at Marcus. He hesitated. That hesitation lasted 1 single second. That 1 second cost him everything. Marcus hit him in the throat with the edge of his hand. The man dropped to his knees with both hands at his neck, making a sound like he was trying to breathe through water.
You all right, sir?
5 seconds, 8
I
seconds,
think this belongs to
9
you.
seconds. They were all down. Breezy
even
was
ask who
bleeding
I
from
was.
his mouth.
It
His
didn't
2
matter.
men were
Someone
curled
needed
on the
help.
ground.
Thank you.
The fourth one had not made a sound in F. 5 full seconds. The night was quiet again. The crickets kept singing. The bar sign behind Marcus buzzed and flickered against the dark sky. If this is moving you, hit like. It tells me this story found the right listener tonight. And if you are new here, hit subscribe so you are there when next week's story drops. Every week I sit across from you and tell the stories of the people everyone else gave up on. They have names. They have lives. They have endings worth hearing. Marcus walked to Harlan. He helped him to his feet. Harlan looked at him with eyes that had seen everything twice. Harlan asked him where he had learned to fight like that. Marcus told him he had learned at his father's knee. Harlan asked him to sit down on the bench again. Harlan asked him to tell him his father's name.
I'm the
Marcus
president of
told
this
him.
club.
Harlan
Loyalty
closed his
and courage
eyes
mean
for a
everything in our
long
world.
time.
This isn't
Harlan
payment.
told him he had known
It's an
that
investment.
man. Harlan told
One
him
act
that
of
man
courage
had been his
changed my
brother.
life.
The world stopped for Marcus Cole in that parking lot. The man he had saved from 4 killers was a man who had known his father. The man he had saved was a biker. The man his father had been was a biker, too. Marcus had never been told. His father had shielded him from the club life for his whole childhood. His father had tried to give him a quiet world. His father had tried to give him a clean road. His father had failed. The quiet world had found Marcus anyway. Now he was about to learn what his father had really been. 3 days later, Harlan took Marcus to a stretch of gravel road south of Hopewell. They sat on the tailgate of Harlan's old truck. Harlan talked for 2 hours without stopping. He talked about the club his father had run. He talked about the name the club had earned across 3 states. He talked about the men who had followed his father like sons across 400 miles of hard country. The club was called the Reapers. The Reapers had no patch that the public could buy. The Reapers had no colors anyone could claim. The Reapers did not exist on any official registry. They were a ghost. They were the most feared MC on the East Coast for 4 years running. They had buried 2 rival clubs. They had protected their own people without fail. They had shut down a human trafficking ring that crossed 2 state lines, working with lawmen who could never admit they existed. Marcus's father had been the president. His father had been the deadliest man in the club for 11 years. His father had walked away 4 years before he died. His father had walked away because Marcus had been born. His father had chosen his son over the throne. He had chosen a quiet life so his son could grow up soft and clean and untouched by the world that had been his father's whole life. If this story broke something open in you, hit like. It tells me you understood what you just heard. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now so the next story lands in your hands as soon as it is ready. Marcus listened. Marcus did not cry. Marcus did not interrupt. He sat with the truth of his father in his chest and felt it settle into place like an old bone setting after a long break. Harlan told him about Dutch. Dutch had been the sergeant at arms. Dutch had been the man who trained each new recruit. Dutch had been sent after the president's death to make sure the president's only son lived long enough to become a man. Marcus understood everything now. He understood everything that had never been explained to him. He understood the 3 old shirts. He understood the bicycle. He understood the long nights of quiet training. He understood why his father had been killed. The Reapers' oldest enemies had finally found the man they could not find while the whole club stood around him. The man on the road had not been an accident. The man on the road had been paid for. The man on the road had been a bill come due. Marcus's father had died protecting his son from a world his son had not yet been born into. Marcus did not break that night. He did not rage. He sat still on the tailgate. He made a single decision in the silence of that gravel road. He decided he would no longer be small. He decided he would no longer be quiet. He decided he would walk into the room where his father's killers still breathed. Harlan asked him what he wanted to do. Marcus told him he wanted one night. He told him he wanted one night to stand in front of the men who had killed his father. He did not want revenge, he told Harlan. He wanted his name spoken. He wanted his father's name spoken inside that room. He wanted the men who had pulled the trigger to hear the name of the man they had killed. Harlan made a phone call from the truck. By Sunday morning, 3 older men had arrived at Harlan's trailer. They rode in on different roads. They did not speak much when they met. They looked at Marcus once. They looked away. They understood what they were seeing in the boy's face. They told Marcus the story of his father's asked meeting. They told him about the meeting with the Iron Sons leaders. They told him his father had gone alone. They told him his father had walked into a room with 5 armed men and walked out alive. They told him his father had been ambushed on the way home that night. They told him the names. They gave him the addresses of 3 men still breathing who had been in that room that night. 2 of them were Iron Sons officers. The third was a man who had once been a Reaper, who had sold his brothers for money, who had given up Marcus's father's route for $30,000 in cash. Marcus asked Harlan what he should do. Harlan told him the choice was his and only his. Harlan told him no one would judge him either way. Harlan told him the brothers had voted 10 years ago to disband the club, but the brotherhood had never died inside these old men. Marcus told them he would go alone. They told him no. Marcus told them he had to. They did not argue after that one sentence. The night came on a Wednesday. Marcus washed his one good shirt by hand in the kitchen sink. He set his father's picture on the table. He kissed the cracked leather wallet. He put the wallet back in his pocket.
Your bike,
he walked
wallet,
out the
vest,
door into the warm
now.
summer
Get nothing
night.
from me!
The address was an old warehouse on the east edge of town. 3 motorcycle clubs met there once a month to divide territory and settle debts. The Iron Sons ran the meeting that month. The lead officer for the Iron Sons was a man who had pulled the trigger on Marcus's father, even if he had not been the man who held the gun in his hand. Marcus walked in through the front door. He did not knock. He told every man in the room who he was. He told them the name his father had carried. He told them what that name had meant on the road
You all
for
right,
20
sir?
years.
I've been better.
The room went
I think this
quiet.
belongs to you.
42 men sat at 3 long tables.
You didn't
The
even
air
ask who
left
I
the
was.
place like someone had
It
opened a
didn't matter.
window
Someone
in
needed
winter.
help. Thank you.
Cigarette smoke froze halfway between lips. Glasses stopped halfway to mouths. The Iron Sun's lead officer stood up. He was a big man with gray hair. He looked at Marcus like Marcus was a child playing a game he had played before. He told Marcus he was hearing things. He told Marcus his father had been a criminal. He told Marcus to leave the room before he ended up like his father had ended up. If this story held you all the way through, hit like. It tells me you were really here with me in this warehouse tonight. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. Every week I tell you about the ones the world gave up on. They deserve a
My name
witness.
is Jack.
You can be
I'm the
that
president of
witness.
this club.
Stay with me.
Loyalty and courage mean everything in our
Marcus
world.
did not leave.
This isn't payment.
Marcus told the
It's an
room there were
investment.
3 men in this building
One
who had
act of
helped
courage
kill his
changed my
father.
life.
Marcus told the room he wanted those 3 men to stand. No one moved. The Iron Sun's officer laughed out loud. He started to walk toward Marcus across the cement floor. He told his men to grab the boy by the arms and throw him into the parking lot. Marcus hit him in the center of his chest with the heel of his palm. The man stopped breathing where he stood. He fell backward into his metal chair. The chair broke under his weight. The man did not get back up. 2 more Iron Suns came at Marcus from the side. They swung heavy wooden chairs at his head. Marcus moved like his father had moved in the old stories the Reapers still told. He had been taught to move like water on a floor made of stone. He dropped beneath the first swing. He took the second man's, legs out from the floor with a single low sweep. Standing room reaction began at the back of the hall. One of the older Reapers stood first. He was a thin man with a bald head and a face like a dried apple. He stood because he had served Marcus's father for 11 years on the road. He stood because he had never once seen Marcus's father fall in any fight. A second Reaper stood beside him. They did not speak. They did not need to. The standing was the speech. Then a third Reaper stood, then a fourth, then a fifth, then a row at the back, then a section beside them, then a room of 42 men on their feet. By the time Marcus had cleared the second table, the Iron Suns were on the floor and the Reapers were standing tall. The room was a forest of old men with tears running down their faces. They had waited 10 years for a man to walk back through the door with that name on his tongue. A man in the back of the room walked forward. He was the former Reaper who had sold out his president for $30,000. He walked with his head down. He knelt at Marcus's feet in front of every man still breathing in the room. He told Marcus he was sorry. He told Marcus he had lived with the weight of that betrayal for 10 years. He told Marcus his wife had left him over it. He told Marcus he was ready for whatever Marcus chose to do with him in that moment. Marcus looked at him for a long time. Marcus told him his father would have killed him on the spot. Marcus told him. He was not his father. Marcus told him to stand up. Marcus told him to leave this room. Marcus told him to never come back to this part of the country again. Marcus told him he was giving him back his life on this condition. Marcus told him the condition was a kindness he had not earned. If this story hit you somewhere quiet, hit like. It tells me you saw what Marcus saw in that room tonight. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. Every week I tell you about the ones the world gave up on. They deserve a witness. You can be that witness. Hit subscribe before you close this page tonight. The man stood. The man walked out through the back door into the dark. The door closed behind him. No one said a word. The room emptied in silence. The Iron Suns were carried out by their own men, one at a time, folded like laundry. Only the Reapers remained. They stood in place as if they had been waiting 10 years to be allowed to stand in front of the boy their president had died to protect. The thin man with the bald head walked forward. He took a worn leather folder from inside his cut. Inside the folder was a single patch. The patch was black with a single white symbol at its center. It had been Marcus's father's cut. It had been kept safe in a barn for 10 years by men who could not bring themselves to bury it. The man held it out to Marcus. He told Marcus the Brotherhood had voted 2 days ago to bring his father's son home. He told Marcus the Reapers would ride again if Marcus would ride at the front of the line. He told Marcus the men behind him were the last of his father's brothers. He told Marcus each one had voted yes without a single voice against. He told Marcus his father would have wanted exactly this on this night in the world. Marcus held the patch in both hands. He did not put it on his cut. He folded it once. He folded it twice. He put it inside his shirt, against his chest, against his skin, where it could not be seen and could not be stolen. If this story broke something in you the right way, hit like. It tells me you felt the weight of tonight. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. Every week I will sit across from you again and tell you about the people nobody else will tell you about. They deserve a voice. They deserve you. Hit subscribe before you close this page. He walked out of the warehouse at midnight. He walked the 4 miles home across the back roads of the county. He did not ride his bicycle. He walked in the warm dark. He wanted to feel the road under his feet, the way his father had felt the roads his whole life, the way the road had felt the night his father died on it. When he got home, the small trailer was quiet. Mrs. Pace had left a sandwich on the porch in wax paper, the way she always did. Marcus sat on the steps. He ate the sandwich slowly. He looked at the stars in the summer sky. He looked at them the way his father had looked at them, the way lonely men look at things they cannot speak to out loud. He went inside. He set his father's wallet on the kitchen table. He set the folded patch beside it on the wood. He sat on his cot without a sound. He did not sleep for a long time. He thought about the man on the side of the road. He thought about his father kneeling in a kitchen, teaching him how to slip a punch when he was 9 years old. He thought about the smell of motor oil on his father's hands. He thought about the last conversation they had. That conversation had come when Marcus was 12. His father had pulled him close. His father had told him to always stand up for the man no one else would stand up for. His father had told him the only measure of a man was the company he kept in the worst moments of his life. His father had told him never to forget that, no matter who he became or what he owned or what the world gave him in the years ahead. He thought he had now done what his father had asked of him. He thought he had become the man his father had built him to become in the small kitchen before he died. He thought his father would have been proud of him. He could not be sure. He would have to carry that question for the rest of his life, the way all children carry the questions about their parents they never get to ask out loud. The next morning, Marcus woke early. He did not go to work at the gas station. He called his boss from the kitchen phone. He thanked him for the job. He told him he would not be coming back. His boss asked him why. Marcus told him he had somewhere else to be now. He did not explain. His boss understood because some things do not need to be explained at the end of a long road. Harlan picked him up at 9 in the morning. They drove south out of the county. They did not talk for the first hour of the drive. Harlan understood the weight of the moment. Harlan had carried his own father's club patch until it fell apart in his hands from years of being held too tight. They arrived at a stretch of gravel road at the edge of a small town Marcus had never visited before. 3 motorcycles waited for them there. Old bikes kept alive for 10 years for this single moment. 3 men sat on the bikes in the early sun. They were the reapers who had stood in the warehouse. They were the last of the brotherhood. They had voted yes on Marcus the night before. Harlan handed Marcus a set of keys from the seat of his truck. The keys were for his father's bike. His father's bike had been kept in a barn for 10 years by a man who started the engine once a month, so it would not die. It had been waiting for this morning the way a father waits to meet his son at the door. If this story held you through the long ride east hit like, it tells me you rode with Marcus to the gravel road this morning. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. Every week I tell the stories of the people the world tried to forget. Tonight you remembered one of them. Keep him with you on your drive home. Stay with me. Marcus looked at the bike. He swung his leg over the seat. He sat in the leather. He felt the leather seat under him. He felt the place where his father's hands had rested on the handlebars for 20,000 miles of road. He started the engine. The sound filled the road. The sound carried across the hills of 3 counties. The sound was his father's voice on the road again, calling him into a life his father had meant to give him.
You all right, sir? I've been better.
The 4 reapers rode out single file down that gravel road. They rode east into the morning sun.
It didn't matter.
They did not
Someone
look
needed
back.
help. Thank you.
They had nothing behind them worth carrying into the new morning. They had only what lay ahead of them on the long road that stretched out toward the rising sun. When Marcus got home that night after the long ride east, he did not take the patch out from against his chest. He sat on the edge of his cot in the dark trailer. He held the cracked leather wallet in his left hand. He held the folded patch in his right hand. He spoke to his father the way he always spoke to his father when he was alone. He told his father he had ridden the bike. He told his father he had stood in front of the men who had killed him on the road. He told his father the brothers had stood up for him in the room. He told his father he was sorry he had not been there to save him. He told his father he was going to make sure no one else lost a father the way he had lost his own. He told his father he had chosen the road his father had set aside for him.
I'm the president
He
of this
told his
club.
father he had chosen the life his
everything
father
in
had
our
once
world. This
protected
isn't
him
payment.
from. He
It's an
told his
investment.
father he understood
One
now
act of
why his
courage
father had
changed my
walked
life.
away from the club when Marcus was born. He told his father the walking away had been a different kind of love, but love had always been at the center of it. He told his father he loved him. He told his father he was not alone anymore. He told his father his name had been spoken inside the room where his killers had gathered. He told his father the room had stood up when the name was spoken. He told his father nothing had been lost, in the end, no matter what had been taken from them on the road 10 years ago. Then he kissed the wallet. Then he kissed the patch. He turned off the small lamp beside his cot. He lay down in the dark trailer. He lay down on the small cot. He lay down with his father's things beside him on the table where he could touch them if he woke in the night. In the morning, when the sun came through the window of the trailer, Marcus woke with a small smile on his face. It was the first smile he had worn in 3 full years. It cost him nothing. It came from somewhere older than his grief. It came from the place in him where his father still lived behind his ribs, beating along with Marcus's own heart. He rose, he dressed, he walked out the door. He did not ride his bicycle that morning. He walked the way walking men walk, the way men walk who have nothing left to prove and everything left to live for. Marcus Cole was 17 years old and the president of the Reapers. He had been raised by ghosts. He had been taught by a man who came twice a year. He had been kept alive by an old neighbor who wrapped sandwiches in wax paper and left them on his porch. If this story broke something in you the right way, hit like. It tells me you felt what Marcus felt tonight in that room with the iron suns on the floor at his feet. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. Every week I sit across from you and tell the stories of the people the world gave up on. They are still breathing. They are still waiting. They deserve an audience in their lives. Hit subscribe before you leave this page. He had been saved from 4 killers by his own 2 hands, and by the thousand small lessons his father had planted inside him like seeds in dry soil. He had walked into a room of iron and walked out with his father's name still ringing in every ear that had been inside that room. He had done what his father had asked of him before his father died on the road in the dark. He did not ride the bike for show. He did not take the patch for status. He did not take the throne his father had once held as a thing to be admired. He took it as a duty. He took it as a promise. He took it because someone had to carry the weight of that name into the next decade, and he had been built by his father to carry it. His father had died to give him a quiet life. His father had failed. The quiet life had not wanted Marcus. The quiet life had spat him out into the parking lot behind the bar. The loud life had been waiting for him all along on the other side of the door his father had tried to keep closed. Marcus had not chosen this path. The world had chosen him for it. He had only said yes to it in the silence of the gravel road. That night, after everyone else had gone home, Marcus sat alone on his cot. He held the wallet close to his chest with both hands. He whispered his father's name into the dark room. He whispered his thanks. He whispered his goodbye to the boy he had been before the parking lot. He whispered the only promise a boy can keep for the father he lost on the road. He promised he would not break under the weight of what had been given to him. He promised he would not become cruel with the power the brothers had handed back to his family. He promised he would keep standing up for the man no one else would stand up for, no matter how many rooms he walked into for the rest of his life. He promised his father he would carry him into every room for the rest of his years, the way his father had once carried him on his shoulders as a small boy. If this story held you to the end, hit like one more time for Marcus. It tells me you stood with him all the way to the empty trailer and the small cot, and the cracked wallet on the table, and the folded patch against his chest. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now, because next week's story is already written, and it is waiting for you in the queue behind this one. Every week I tell the stories of the people the world gave up on. They are not gone. They breathe inside the stories we tell about them on long nights like this one. Stay with me on this channel. I will see you next week with a new name and a new room and a new reason to lean forward in your chair and listen all the way through. Hit subscribe now before the next story begins, and the next one will knock the breath out of you when it lands. I will be here. I will be waiting for you when you come back to my chair across from yours. I will not forget you, and I do not think you will forget Marcus Cole, who was 17 years old the night he carried his father back into the world. Thank you for listening all the way to the last line of the story. Stories like this one only live in the world when people like you choose to sit with me for 50 minutes at the end of a long day. I do not take that choice for granted. I see you across the room. I see the chair you are sitting in. I see the lamp beside you on the side table. I will see you next week with another man who deserved better than what the world gave him, and another room where the truth finally walks through the door on its own 2 feet.